It's been a week of animals in the 2024 election. Quite frankly, I'm concerned someone should call the people for the ethical treatment of animals. Tim Walz tried to kill pheasants. He almost shot a hen. And if you didn't notice how unsafe he was, he almost shot the journalists around him. And Kamala Harris went into what the legacy media has coined the lion's den at Fox News. But the best news of the week is that we now have Chinese pandas in D.C. And if that wasn't exciting enough for you all, we got a pig, Bill Clinton, who was trotted out in Georgia to go and court voters for Kamala. And when he went to visit McDonald's, his old stomping grounds, they confused him with Joe Biden. With less than 20 days in the election, the race for congressional leadership, those who seek to be the leaders in the House, those who seek to be the leaders in the U.S. Senate, they're in high gear, jostling for a job. I'm Bryan Rudnick. I'm your host here at Rally for the Republic. I thank you for joining us once again. I'm going to get into all this and more right after the break.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick here. I'm fearlessly broadcasting from the free state of Florida. It appears Kamala Harris has laid out her philosophy. If you didn't hear about it in the last few weeks, it's been called the New Way Forward. It's a new way. She finally starts explaining why it's a new way. Last week, she was continuing Joe Biden's policies, had no problems with them. Joe Biden was apparently competent in her mind. Joe Biden said a few weeks prior to that Kamala was in the room helping him make every policy. She's competent. And she helped him execute all the damage he'd done to this country. Kamala is changing that tune, and she wants us to know that she is not continuing Joe Biden. She's not going to be like Joe Biden because, after all, she's not a lifetime Washington politician like Joe Biden. That's her excuse here. That's how she's backtracking. From what I can see, she's sliding into the shoes of a lifetime politician quite well. Looks just like every other D.C. politician. Every room she's in, the answers change. Every audience she's in front of, the answers change. Outreach group that she goes in front of, her accent changes. I mean, just look at her interviews with like CNN versus the Fox News one last night. Big difference in body language, big difference in answers. And she's basically trying to court everybody who isn't Jewish or Catholic. She's given up on Jews and Catholics, apparently, and she's okay when members of her party make disparaging comments about both groups, both religions. And she's trying to make us believe that she is going to be the woman who breaks the glass ceiling at the Oval Office. And in order to do it, she's relying on three old white guys, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. Yeah, I said Barack Obama because we can't prove where he was born, but we definitely know his mother was white. And his job, as you know, was to shame black men last week, and that's backfired. And the reason it backfired is simple, because if you didn't see the video and you didn't see his homosexual behavior, every black man looking at Barack Obama, and there's been some black comedians who've done just great sketches on this, they look at him in his mom jeans, without the mom jeans, just everything about him, hanging out with the Hollywood elites. There's nothing about the man that says he's like your typical black man. Nothing. He acts like a white guy, okay? And that's probably been going on since his days at Harvard. You got Barack Obama out there trying to shame black men. He fails. You trot out Bill Clinton this week, a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, the original offender of the Me Too movement. And basically, that's contradicting everything she's selling about breaking the glass ceiling. And then you got the other old white guy who's eulogizing Grand Wizard KKK members, has a history, decades of racist comments that she herself has pointed out. And that's who she's got trying to help her court the vote. I'm pretty sure that is why she's failing with the black and brown voters of America, because none of them can explain the message that needs to be explained: the economy, inflation, crime, border security. Get into all this because Kamala, the woman herself, and what she's doing is clearly ineffective, and it's starting to look like a really dumb strategy. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll get back to that and get very in-depth in just a moment.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick here. You're back listening to Rally for the Republic, and I thank you for being here. As the week began, the man Kamala Harris hired to counter Trump's bravado, a man she hoped would negate J.D. Vance's up from the bootstraps, American persona on military record. A man she was counting on to help her court men and overcome the Karen effect while she tries to win the Bible Belt and the Rust Belt. The man she made her running mate, you know what I'm talking about. The man who put the tampons in the boys' bathroom. The man who lied about his military record. The man who lied about being a football coach when he was only an assistant coach. Well, he stepped in it again. Yeah, he stepped in it big time. Obviously, you know I'm talking about Tim Waltz, not her husband, Doug Emhoff, because the only time Doug Emhoff gets trot on the stage is when she needs to remind people that she happens to be married to a Jewish man, and somehow that means she supports Israel. I mean, I'm married to a great woman, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't always agree with her on the sports teams that she supports. And, so I digress. I don't even understand how trotting out Doug is somehow emblematic of her support for Israel. But that goes to show you how fake and phony she is. But let's get into Tim Waltz here. At his annual hunting, the governor's annual hunting event, he showed up in the nicest, cleanest, best crease hunting outfit, the strongest shade of orange you've ever seen in your life. Everybody I talked to that goes hunting, shooting, been to a range, been out hunting, nobody has ever had a hunting outfit that clean after their first trip. Okay? And you heard us talk about what a sportsman Tim Waltz is. He's brought it up. He talked about the shotgun in his truck. Alan Gottlieb addressed that in, I think it was 2, 3, 4 episodes ago. And Waltz claimed he made sure to tell the media he was using this Beretta A300 sporting gun. Okay, it was the specific model. How it has this technology to reduce recoil. And he got older, so he didn't want to hurt his shoulder, and that's why he apparently bought this very expensive shotgun. And by shotgun standards, for regular shotguns, it's expensive. For shooting clay, like he claimed to be doing in skeet, it's not expensive. But as people on social media started pointing out on Sunday, he actually did not possess the model that he was claiming reduced the recoil in the way he claimed. And I didn't get a good enough look at the actual shotgun to discern that, but there was a lot of buzz about that. And of course, it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm trying to understand how a governor, a modest man of his modest means, even affords an expensive shotgun like that. But more importantly, let's address the one thing. Tim Waltz at least has good taste in shotguns because Beretta makes great shotguns, and they have some technology that does reduce recoil, like he talked about. And I've shot several of them. I think Beretta shotguns are wonderful. So heck, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the folks. If anybody knows anybody Beretta, they'd be a great sponsor of this show because I actually use them and like them. But let's talk about the Tim Waltz photo op because it is going to go down in history as one of the biggest flops, and I think even worse than when John Kerry did his fake photo shoot hunting trip during the 2004 presidential election. Because at least in 2004, Kerry managed to get a shot off. He hit a bird. He bloodied his hands. Then he tried to wipe his hands clean. He didn't want the media to see him holding the geese. But at least he did what he needed to do. Waltz couldn't get the safety off the gun, which, by the way, you just push a button around the trigger guard. He had an excuse for why he couldn't remove the shots, why he couldn't hit the bird that was in the air, that everybody around him was like, looks like a pretty easy shot. And he had all these excuses, and he didn't want to be compared to Dick Cheney, is basically what he claimed. But this man was supposedly an experienced hunter. He made it a point of claiming this was absolutely his shotgun, yet he didn't know how to use it. What I take from this is just another attempt by the Harris-Waltz team to steal votes from the Trump-Vance team, and they once again failed. Big F for them. This is a case study in what not to do when staging a photo op to make the candidate look like something he's not. You would have thought the Democrats would have learned the hard lesson from Michael Dukakis in the tank during the 1988 election. But oh, well, they have to keep stepping on their own you-know-whats. They'll just keep doing these things because the Waltz-Harris or Harris-Waltz ticket, however you want to call it, is nothing more than a bunch of fake and phony photo ops and fake and phony attempts to dupe the American public. I'm going to take one quick break, and then I'll be back to you with the last segment of our show.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick here in the Rally for the Republic headquarters with the last segment of the episode. It's now Act 5, Scene 1 in the 2024 election. Kamala Harris, like an onion, the layers are being peeled back, proving what a fake and phony she is. About 4 days or so ago, she goes to North Carolina, and she's standing there and she's packing boxes of diapers and things like that. And she's trying to pretend that she is like this normal, everyday, good person helping people. And you can just see the look on her face because the body language tells it all. Everything with Kamala Harris, her facial expressions, the whiny voice, and the body language tell you everything you need to know. Here she is, and she's packing boxes of diapers, and ladies are standing next to her. They look awkward. She looks awkward. Nobody's smiling. Nobody's taking selfies. You're standing next to the Vice President of the United States, the woman who could break the glass ceiling, be the first woman president, and nobody looks excited that she's even in the room. And the photo op gets worse because nobody in Team Harris-Waltz was smart enough to say, let's change the outfit, roll up your sleeves. Literally roll up your sleeves, Kamala, because that's what you should do when packing boxes and helping people and make it look more natural. But there's nothing natural about her because everything's a photo op. And Marie Antoinette, who's running for president here, just doesn't know how to be a normal person because she's an elitist from LA or San Francisco, even worse. And people in North Carolina, just like parts of Florida, need help. And they need help from FEMA. And Kamala right now is on the Anywhere But Help the People of the United States tour. So she's not in Congress working with the few members of Congress who have now gone back to try to get FEMA aid. No, she's on the late night TV circuit, the podcast circuit. She finally found time to go to Fox News to supposedly try to court Trump supporters, conservatives, and Republicans. We'll address that in a moment. But she's anywhere, but you can be assured wherever she goes, her bad facial expressions, the bad body language goes with her. And like her mentor, Joe Biden, the racist that she has helping her to court the votes, she has now been caught as a plagiarist. And there's a whole scandal with a book she wrote and her publisher having to admit that apparently she stole some topics, I guess, from the New York Times. There's some paragraphs and things like that from the New York Times. And then she was on Charlamagne the God, the same show that Joe Biden appeared on, where he told people that you are not black enough if you didn't support him. And she was there and had a very in-depth interview with Charlamagne. And she was asked a very poignant question about believing in if the 2024 election was going to be a free and fair election. I will post an article. Read the words for yourself. See if you come to the same conclusion I did. Because when I read that word salad and I see her interview with Brett Baier, and I'm seeing all these interviews, and I believe there's a trend here. You see, Kamala, like most of the liberals, she wants to make Trump the devil, so she never misses an opportunity to blame Trump. This is the blame Trump game. This is not the what I could do for you game, in her mind at least. And this is not the here's my record of accomplishment. No, she doesn't have a record of accomplishment, so there's nothing to talk about. And as we've already said, now she's changing the new way forward. Is not so much the new way forward that she promised last week. It's a different way forward this week. So she's asked about the free and fair election of 2024. She is saying Americans need to stand up for democracy. That's the only way it'll be free and fair. But if Americans vote, by definition, they're standing up for democracy. I don't know anybody who would disagree with that. And like the progressives in Washington, like Jamie Raskin, and you know Jamie Raskin, he's the gadfly to the GOP. He was at the center of the Trump impeachments. He does everything he can to harass Donald Trump and Republicans, along with Jared Moskowitz here in South Florida. And Jamie Raskin is rounding up the progressives to make sure they all agree that they will not certify the 2024 election if Donald Trump wins. They've not seen a vote. They have not seen facts. They've not seen evidence to give them any reason to doubt that America might be looking for a change or not. But yet they've already determined if Donald Trump wins, it can't be free and fair, and they're not certifying. I would be surprised, but we've lived through enough to know the left doesn't make sense. There's no common sense with them. They have an agenda. They want a totalitarian regime so they can force their socialist policies on us. That's what this is all about. Because those same people who've accused Republicans of doing wrong in the 2020 election or on January 6th of 2021 are some of the same people like Maxine Waters of California who refused to certify the election in 2016 for Donald Trump. Nobody's punishing them for their behavior. Yet, when Trump supporters question Biden's election, apparently Trump supporters should be thrown in jail, but not these Democrats who are saying they won't certify the 2024 election. Not surprising at all, right? Are you surprised? Because I'm not. But let's get into what is truly the most egregious elements of Kamala's words this week and really scary word salads. Because as she's been in the Brett Baier interview and the Charlamagne the God and some other interviews this week, and she's talking about Donald Trump, and she's trying to say, well, Donald Trump's really the problem because he's not going to adhere to free and fair elections, and he's going to use the military to go after his political enemies. And you heard Donald Trump, Brett Baier made sure to point it out, that Donald Trump has reclarified his words to make it known he's not doing that. He's more concerned about them coming after him because Jamie Raskin has already started it. And Kamala refuses to accept that reclarification. But when she fixes her word salads, apparently we're supposed to accept that. So Donald Trump's clarified. They're not going for it. And she's saying that Donald Trump's going to force the military to go after his political enemies. We all know that since the time of Hillary Clinton as First Lady, the left was very clear about how much they dislike, disrespect our men and women, our brave men and women, our sons and daughters who are brave enough to don the uniform of any of our branches and help serve this country. How honorably it is for every one of them, just like the amazing police officers we have, who are willing to put themselves on the front lines to keep you and me free, to keep us safe, to allow us to do things like broadcast this podcast and listen to it, and then go eat a slice of pizza or drink some great, fine Kentucky bourbon. But Kamala has a problem with those people, just like every leftist. And how do I know? Because when she talks about the military doing Donald Trump's bidding, okay, this is the same woman who's part of an administration that has decided, like other leftist administrations, to treat the military like a social experiment. They stuck Lloyd Austin in there, and they forced him to implement DEI policies, and now they've got recruiting ads here in the Biden-Harris administration that, they have recruiting ads like Heather has two mommies in the Army ad, and the Navy's got a transgender spokesperson, and combat readiness is completely out the door. So Kamala's in this interview, and remember, as a member of the left, she is now the face of America's left, the horse face of America's left, I might add. This is the same Biden-Harris administration and the same liberals who, after January 6th, implemented policies to prevent, along with Nancy Pelosi, members of the National Guard and the military that were called up to defend the United States Capitol building, who were practically chastised, chewed out, discriminated against because maybe they had tattoos or somebody assumed they had an affiliation with some sort of neo-Nazi white supremacy group, or that they might have been too loyal to Donald Trump. And when they were identified for these things, they were not allowed to serve as a member of our armed forces defending the United States Capitol building after January 6th, because they were treated guilty before proven guilty. They weren't treated as innocent until proven guilty. So they were treated as people who might also be potential insurrectionists without any proof, without any due process, because that's an American value not shared by the left, not unless it works to their advantage. Here's Kamala, and she's trying to blame Trump. But really, when you go into her words, when you hear about what she's trying to scare America into believing that Donald Trump is going to use the military to carry out his orders. This from a woman who is part of the administration that weaponized the federal government worse than we have ever seen by any administration. Whether you want to talk about how Catholics at conservative churches, parents at school boards, gun stores with ATF agents, and then, of course, the raid at Mar-a-Lago, and all these other things that Merrick Garland did under the Biden-Harris regime to treat our country like a banana republic. But she is going to sit here and criticize Donald Trump's words and potential acts that she fears are going to happen, that she is claiming is going to be carried out by sworn officers and NCOs, non-commissioned officers of the United States military. And she thinks these people are what? Going to be insurrectionists? She's accusing them that they will not be following the law, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or that they're going to violate this thing called Posse Comitatus, where they're not allowed to actually perform any actions on U.S. soil. But somehow she thinks these officers who know that they could be jailed, put in prison for life, sent to Fort Leavenworth, that they're going to risk their careers by taking illegal orders. But she thinks they're stupid, dumb, naive. What is she saying about the brave men and women in uniform? That is disrespectful, shameful, and she owes them an apology. Because if she thinks the men and women of our armed forces are going to violate their ethics, the law, their oaths of office, she's got something wrong in that head of hers. Because downright disrespectful, and it may be too late to get this message out to members of the armed services who are voting overseas, but they need to know that the potential commander-in-chief of this country has no respect for their ability to think for themselves. Okay? This is disgusting. This is the woman who's been at the head of the snake that has weaponized the federal government against American citizens. Parents at school board meetings, California laws that want to send parents to jail because they won't let their kids chop off their genitalia. And she wants to accuse every potential member of the military of possibly being an insurrectionist without proof? Who the hell does she think she is? Kamala is running ads right now, trying to tell you that she's big, bad, tough, and the military-industrial complex supports her. And out of the same mouth, just a different side of it, she's trying to tell us that the men and women in uniform can't follow the law, that they're just going to be loyal to Donald Trump. This is the same woman who's trouting out Republicans and getting the media to write article after article about the Republicans coming out and supporting her. Basically joined up with the pedophiles at the Lincoln Project who've been attacking Donald Trump since the beginning of his political career because he refused to hire those charlatans. These are the same people in the military-industrial complex that just want endless wars that Donald Trump refuses to have, like Dick Cheney started. And now his daughter Liz Cheney is at the head of that, along with Adam Kinzinger and this former Congressman Riggles out of Virginia, who's just denounced the GOP. And then when you read the fine print of the Washington Post article, what do you find? These people hated Donald Trump for 10 years. They hated the Republican Party for 10 years. And there's baggage that predates the 2024 election. So guess what? These known losers are either participating in fake news or old news. And you shouldn't care, and neither should anybody else in America. And that's why you've got to get out there and you've got to tell people enough of the shenanigans, enough of fake Kamala, phony Kamala, and her phony photo ops, okay? These people just want to retaliate against Donald Trump. They've all got blood on their hands. They know it. Heck, Liz Cheney just got caught violating the law with January 6 witnesses. Sounds like somebody who probably should be thrown in contempt of Congress, if not contempt of court somewhere. So we got 20 days, folks. Not even 20 days. By the time you listen to this, you got like 18 and a half, really. And it could be anybody's White House, anybody's House of Representatives, and anybody's Senate. So it's your job to take this information out to your friends, your families, your loved ones, the uninformed and uneducated Americans who are going to listen to Kamala's word salads, and you, one-on-one, need to persuade them. These fine Americans might not be ready to pull a trigger just like Tim Waltz wasn't, but hopefully you're going to get them up to speed. You're going to make them confident in performing their American duty to uphold democracy by voting, not by doing what Kamala says and being fearful that people might have a different opinion. Quite frankly, we need leaders who are not gun shy, which is something that Donald Trump has proven, but we also need leaders who aren't trigger happy either. And Tim Waltz, if you missed it, when you rewatch the video, you're also going to see he kept his finger on the trigger of that gun, which everybody who owns a gun and has ever shot a gun has been taught not to do. Another reason why Tim Waltz is a liar. So you got 18 and a half or so days. You've got to get this information out. You know I'm going to tell you never give up on our republic. You've got to respect the men and women who bravely serve in uniform. We are so thankful. We love them. We can't do enough for them because they can't do enough for us. And it's unfortunate that people like Kamala Harris can't show them the respect that the rest of the American population knows to show them. And we need leaders who don't threaten our friends in Israel and with withholding of support, like the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden regime got caught doing again yesterday. Not the first time. So I'm tired of hearing friends, family, and people make claims of all the stuff that Joe Biden's doing more than any other American president. Joe Biden giveth, and Kamala Harris giveth, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden taketh. Every time they claim they're giving, they're taking. Ask Israel. It's disgusting. They keep wanting to withhold support from Israel. But Israel's getting the job done because before I started this broadcast, we heard that another terrorist leader, the man who needed to be gone for over a year now, is now gone. It's great news, great reason to celebrate this Sukkot. Kamala Harris can think you're too dumb to want to uphold democracy. Like she said on Charlamagne the God, she basically admitted what no politician should be thinking, their real thoughts. And Tim Waltz continues to prove that, like the woman he stands on a stage with, he is fake and phony. The two of them are a symbol for what is wrong in America in 2024. And as we continue to go down this rabbit hole of the Kamala Harris-Tim Waltz story, it's going to fall like a house of cards. It's going to fall worse than any other political duo we have ever seen. And that's why us, the patriots, the listeners of Rally for the Republic, you're going to be the ones who save this country so long as you're not sitting on the sidelines. We need to get this information out quickly and effectively. Please remember that means you, one-on-one, reaching out to people. Because what you saw here happen in Florida last week and in North Carolina the week before, you need to understand it could continue to happen again in the next few weeks. So we've got to get people educated early. We've got to vote early. We need to make sure that those ballots get in, they get counted. And you've got to make sure in these next couple weeks that the politicians running for office, the candidates, whether they're incumbents, whether they're challengers, so long as they're freedom-loving Americans, okay? So long as they're freedom-loving Americans, you've got to give them money. That last bit of money right now, this week, will make a huge impact. Next week could be too late. There may not be media to book. It may take too long to get Facebook to approve ads. You don't realize the logistics that go on in these things. Even text messages have a lead time to get out the door. So that's why you've got to give money to candidates now so they can use it effectively before it's too late. And then if you got a couple of minutes here and there, make a phone call. Go to a campaign office, volunteer, hold a sign. Do something that actually impacts democracy other than following the dribble out of Kamala Harris's mouth. Don't just sit on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social and think you're getting the job done. Okay? Don't just keep retweeting the articles I'm putting out there because that won't be what matters. You taking that article and explaining one-on-one to friends and family and uninformed Americans will have a bigger impact. Yes, it's laborious, but that one-on-one persuasion is really going to have an impact. And that's how you're going to take back our republic in November. Okay? I'm Bryan Rudnick. I want to thank you again for listening to another episode of Rally for the Republic. But before I sign off, I want to tell you about another way that you can help defeat the radical left that has infiltrated every part of our lives. If you're a freedom-loving American who has amassed a savings from working hard that didn't get stolen by the government, I want you to call my friend Bob Rubin at Rubin Wealth Advisors. Bob is a true conservative. How do I know? Because I've been a CPAC and Turning Point with Bob, and he joins me at the gun range on a regular basis. He is a true freedom fighter who wants to make sure that you've got money that is growing properly and invested wisely without people who subscribe to DEI values. Bob's been a fighter against DEI. He's been a fighter protecting your retirement accounts, and he wants you to seize on market opportunities that are freedom-focused. So please give Bob Rubin at Rubin Wealth Advisors a call. It's rubinwa.com or 561-288-1111. Bob Rubin, Rubin Wealth Advisors, rubinwa.com or 561-288-1111, and schedule a free call with Bob. You make sure to tell him your favorite freedom fighter, Bryan Rudnick, sent you. And please continue to like and share each one of my episodes. Contact us, feedback at rallyfortherepublic.com. I want to thank you, and may God bless you and your family, as well as this great nation and the people of Israel. Thank you again for listening to Rally for the Republic.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.